Hi, I'm Victor Maas, real estate attorney, broker, and investor, but no one really cares. What they care about is that I'm a problem solver. So that's what I do for a living, is solve problems.
I'm going to show you how to find deals you never even knew existed.
Deals are everywhere, but you got to get off your butt.
One deal is all it takes to change your life. Victor freaking Maas, that's right.
On the table today, we're going to be talking about my biggest successes in real estate investing. This is the first installment in a three-part mini-series where I'm going to highlight my successes, failures, and the occasions where I turned an initial failure into a success. The point of this series isn't to brag about the money I made on the successes or to dwell on the failures. Truthfully, it's to serve as a guide for any level investor to teach them what situations to capitalize on and what situations they may want to potentially avoid. With that being said, let's kick off with my success. So most of my deals that I get are typically from one of six sources. One is pre-foreclosures, two is pre-foreclosures, three is the local code violations list, four is city liens when you don't respond to those code violation complaints, five is tax delinquents, and six is tax foreclosures. Somewhere in those, that's usually where I get my deals from. When I teach my students, that's where I teach them where they should go fishing for deals. So most of my deals that I acquire are typically subject to transaction. What that means is the owners are in such trouble, they just deed me the property, and then it becomes my problem. I don't buy houses, I buy problems. I'm not an investor, an attorney, or broker. Yes, I am those things legally, but what I really am is a problem solver. So as I go shop for deals, I'm looking for kind of properties that are all messed up, jacked up with title or the condition of the home, or the people just need a fresh start. I never buy off the MLS, that's where all the realtors go. I never buy at the auction, that's where all the suckers go. I go look for people in trouble. So most of these properties that I do acquire are typically, you're gonna laugh when I say this, are $10. They just want the problems gone. Occasionally I might give them, several $1,000s depending on the equity, but oftentimes they're so far behind or they have judgments or liens or any number of issues. I don't always rehab anymore. I used to do a lot more, especially 10 years ago. Mostly what I do now is I clean them all out and I wholesale them. Now some people call that hoteling, I call it prehabbing and then wholesaling. But it's the same thing. Clean them all out, get 1, 2, 3 dumpsters, whatever it takes. I think I've done 14 dumpsters for one house. It was disgusting. It was a hoarder house with one person. But once I clean it all out and then I try to wholesale it, then my wholesale buyers are more likely to pay me top dollar for those deals. And then they're not tripping over dead bodies or dead animals, which is a cool thing.
What?
My marketing is really just active marketing. What I mean by that is I go to the properties, I knock on the doors, I seek out the sellers, I do skip searching to try to locate them. I don't spend money on advertising. I've tried lots and lots of postcards. I've tried ads in this, ads in that, and they just don't work. These people are in trouble that I'm going after. They're not looking for advertisements to think, I wonder if I should sell my property and get top dollar. No, the kind of people I go after, they're hiding. They're putting their heads in the sand. So oftentimes they don't respond to advertising, postcards, direct mail of any kind, literatures, you name it. So probably my biggest success ever was the home that I had here in town that I actually lived in for 3 years. Now let me give you some backstory. A neighbor of this house was in a very nice part of town. The neighbor was a relative of an employee of mine at the time, and she said, by the way, my aunt's neighbor has the most disgusting home. It's a great neighborhood. The grass is 2-3 feet tall. There's even a lawnmower on the front porch, and they still won't mow it. So that was kind of a funny story. So I did the research. I realized they're $29,000 behind. There was 1, 2, 3 judgments. The biggest one was I think about $200,000. The second one was $22,000. The third one was $5,000, and the back taxes, of course, of $29,000. Easily needed $50,000 in rehab, and so the home was only worth at the time like $270, give or take. So nobody would touch this with a 10-foot pole. Plus, the man had died who owned the property. He had a second wife. She died 9 years earlier, and nothing was done about her estate. And she had a son outside of the marriage. He had 3 children, plus an additional one that he adopted, his grandchild. Of those 4 kids, 1 of them had died without children. 2 of them were in California as guests of the California penal system. So, those are the facts. The home is disgusting. Rottweilers in the backyard, just piles and piles of dog poop that nobody would ever clean up. The grandson was living in the property. He's 25 years old, drug addict. The only way he could get any kind of work is by driving his bicycle down the hill to the Pizza Hut. So he had 2 other drug head friends there living with him, and they did not help him at all. So sometimes they didn't even have electricity because they couldn't pay their bills. So now that I set up the facts, let me tell you something. I found the deal again through the neighbor. I ended up contacting the kid. I talked to him. He understands that there's all these judgments and everything on it. And basically, I made a deal with him when it was all said and done that I gave him this piece of crap car, which one of my students actually gave to me as a bartering at the same time. I said, anybody have a piece of crap car they want to get rid of? And this guy said, I got one. Just give me a discount on the coaching. And I said, sure. So I worked out a deal for this $1,500 20-year-old car, okay? But it ran great. It was a Honda Accord in great shape, clean and everything. So I bartered the car that I paid nothing for with this kid. But I said, I'm only going to give it to you after we get everything done. And he said, sure. And so I ended up getting him to sign, the stepbrother, I guess the second wife's kid, to cooperate. He was actually the nicest guy of all of them. And then I couldn't get the one person in California, San Diego area, his mom, in fact, to cooperate. And I was communicating with her over and over and over, and she just wouldn't sign. And everybody warned me she was going to be very difficult. So one day on a Memorial Day weekend, I actually decided just to take massive and perfect action. I flew to California. That's right, just decided to do it. And I ended up going to see her brother, who was also in jail, and he cooperated very easily. I gave him $500. Put in the commissary account. Whether I got the sister to sign off or not, I did it anyway. And then I went to see her last. She was the last piece of the pie to get the title owned by me. Now, some of you are probably wondering, wait a minute, what about all these judgments and stuff? I'm going to tell you about it in a minute. So I eventually went to the prison where she's at. I sit down. I've got a notary with me. She shows up. She didn't remember who I was because we had communicated, so I explained to her that I'm here as a last-ditch effort to get her to cooperate. And she's fully aware of all the judgments. I actually had brought my phone with me with a video from her son and her brother saying, hey, please cooperate, please cooperate. And she didn't want to. She just said, I know you're going to figure out, even though there's all these judgments and back taxes and rehab, I know you're a smart guy. You're probably going to figure it out, and I've got nothing else in life. She's doing a stretch for all sorts of bad things, as you can imagine. I have to remind myself sometimes, I'm not an investor. I can't offer people money, especially when I know they're going to either blow it or they don't deserve it or any reason why. So I remembered, I'm a problem solver. So I said to her, look, I've offered you $1,000. I got to do with all these judgments and stuff. If they don't work out, I'm out that money. Would you give it back to me if I gave you more? She's like, well, no. Well, how's that fair? But I'll tell you what can I do for you to earn your business? Could I give that money to someone else? Could I do something for you? And all of a sudden the light bulb went off. She had 2 other minor children in the area. She said, go give $650 of it to the grandparents and then put $350 in the commissary account. You got yourself a deal. It's like, done. She asked me, well, how do I know you're going to do what you're supposed to do? I says, well, there's a camera there, there's an audio there recording this. I'm not going to get in trouble for you or anybody. I got too much to lose as a lawyer. She said, good enough. And so she signed everything, their IDs and everything on their wristbands, the notary signs everything. I'm walking out of the jail, holding area, and this jailer lady is looking at me. She's kind of laughing at me. I got to give her the badge back, the visitor badge. And she's laughing at me. I don't know who this person is, never met her. And I said, why are you laughing at me? She said, I was here the other 3 times you sent mobile notaries to get her to sign paperwork, and she never would. She just kept changing her mind. And when you walked in, I'm hearing the conversation. I said, there's no way this guy's going to convince her. She's already said no 3 times, and yet you did it. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just so impressed by you. And I thought it was one of the nicest things anyone ever said, that most people will give up at the first sign of adversity, and I didn't. So I walk out of the prison there in San Diego. I got the deal. And some of you are probably wondering, what the heck were you even going after this deal for? This is probably, if not the best deal I've ever gotten, even with all the judgments, back taxes, everything. And here's why. I am me. I'm a problem solver. I figured out a way to get rid of judgments, and in this case, all three of them I got rid of for nothing. That's right, nothing. There's certain things I know as a lawyer in Texas through trial and error that has served me well, and this one, it really served me well. So I bought the house for only $29,000 in back taxes. In reality, I could have put 20% down with my local county, about $6,000, and I could have paid the rest in payments, which meant I could have bought this $270,000 home for only $6,000 out of pocket if I really wanted to. Or I could be a wholesaler, go over, clean it all out, which I did. And then I made the biggest mistake of all. I thought at the time. I showed the home to my spouse at the time and my daughters, and they said, we should rehab this one and live in it because it's next door the neighborhood next to us, and this was a nicer home. And I thought about it, like, yeah, let's do it. We kept the other house, I rented it. Glad I did, because then ended up having to move back into it after, sadly, I have to report 2 years divorce. Anyway, but my staff are laughing at me as I say all this. But 3 years after I bought the home and rehabbed it and moved into it, 3 years later, remember, no mortgages for 3 years. Remember, I only bought it for 29 plus the rehab, we'll just say 50 plus, let's just say 80. And I did this. And then I lived in it rent-free, mortgage-free for 3 years. We probably saved me about 60 to 70 grand. It's a big number, folks. And then I sold it 2 years ago. And we sold it for 310. We netted about 280 and we split that. And so 280, I got my 80 grand back in rehab and acquisition. So I made a net profit of $200,000 tax-free because I owned it for 2 years and 1 day or longer, plus no mortgages. I mean, that's a huge deal. That's a life-changing deal, folks. So that's definitely my best deal ever. We did the rehab. It took us about 10 weeks. I didn't do any marketing for it. Once I had the home and I lived in it, I was going to sell it, I moved everybody out. I actually had it staged. It sold first weekend, full price. So the profit, $200,000, saved $60,000 in not having to pay mortgages for 3 years, and I got all my rehab and acquisition costs back. So that's a pretty good day. The second best deal that I've ever done, I would have to say just occurred this year. Something similar to my first best deal, there was a huge judgment on there for $160,000. And the woman had died, and she had 2 adult sons, and they wanted it gone, and they understood there was a huge judgment on there. And I bought it for $10,000 each to them. So 20 grand. Acquisition cost was 20 grand. I put about 35 grand in rehab, and I'm all out. 35 grand plus that, 55 grand. There you go, 55 grand. I ended up selling the property for, hoping for 200, but this hot market we're in right now in 2021, I sold it for 235. That's right. Acquisition cost 20, rehab 35, sold it for 235. I killed it. I staged it. Took me about 10 weeks also, or give or take, to rehab it, and it sold the first weekend. I got it staged. Man, I gotta tell you, if you're listening to this, watching this, spend the money. I think I spent $1,700 to stage my home. They go and they set it up. I don't do squat. It looks like $1 million. A lot of buyers don't have imagination. They can't see all their stuff in there. All they can see is this empty shell of a home. But by staging it, it really helps it sell fast. I actually sold it for $10,000 more than I listed it for, $35,000 more than I'd even hoped for in this crazy hot market. How did I get the deal? It was a referral of a friend. So me doing this, I told everybody that I do this. So that's just a bonus deal. But all in all, after closing costs and everything, I think we netted over 150 grand this year on one deal. So yeah, those are amazing deals. I don't always rehab homes, but if I think the rehab's going to be kind of small, capital-wise, I just do it. Don't do rehabbing if you need the money. I repeat again, don't rehab if you need the money right away, because if you do, you're going to be stressing out so bad. So I want to tell you about some deals that I've done with students. And this is going to be not just my third best deal, but really it's 2 or 3 of these, all the same. So I love teaching students where all the deals are at. Here's why. Because there's so many. And I want to joint venture with as many students as possible. They're everywhere. Thousands just in my backyard. There are a lot of people out there that don't pay their bills. They don't maintain their home. They die without a will. They get in all sorts of trouble. It's the same thing over and over and over and over and over. People think they're going to live forever. I get clients walking here all the time. Dad died, mom died, nobody ever had a will, and we don't know how to get it out of the estates, and I do. And so I teach you where to look for deals. I teach you how to find the owners. I teach you, what kind of strategy we should use with the exit strategy. I put the deal together for you. I put up the money for you. And so in this case, I remember I had this one single mom with 2 kids, and she came to me, and I mean, she was broke, like, dude, broke. And within 2 weeks, she found this deal that I taught her how to find. I was able to solve some of the technical stuff. There was some Medicaid crap there that we resolved. We were able to wholesale it. And literally the next month, she did another deal, almost exactly like this first one. And in less than 2 months, we were able to acquire and wholesale 2 properties that netted, not gross, netted over $90,000 in net profit. And I split both of those with her 50-50. So she ended up getting over 45 grand in less than 2 months from a woman that went from being broke to all of a sudden she's got in 2 months 45 grand. That's life changing. And she didn't believe she could do it being a single mom with 2 kids. And I was able to help her with that. She's been doing real estate investing ever since. She's gotten really good at it. Another one, something similar, was this guy. I don't think he might have I said his first name because I'm really proud of him. His name's Colin. And he did the same thing. Within 2 weeks, he found this pre-foreclosure, and he talked to the owner the way I taught him. He then said, hey, we got to meet with this guy. We did. It was a nice gated community of north central San Antonio. And the guy was a landscaper. And we actually even got him to landscape the yard and everything as part of the deal. And I forget what we gave him, but within 2 weeks of acquiring it and wholesaling it, we cleared, I kid you not, on a wholesale, $79,000. I repeat, $79,000 on a wholesale. That was my biggest deal at that time for wholesaling. The home that I lived in and sold, I mentioned earlier in the story here, I could have wholesaled that one and made about $130. Instead, I ended up living in it. But cash in hand, the one with Colin, we made $79,000, and we split that. And trust me, the best thing he ever told me, he cleared the deck. He was able to pay off all his debts and get after it. And I mean, he was just like so happy. And to this day, it's been a few years, this is all he does. This is all he does. I have stories after stories of students working with me on deals. I prefer it that way. I'm not stupid. I know that once you learn this game, see how easy it is, you're going to want to do it yourself. But for maybe the first 2 to 5 deals, you'll want to work with me so that we help each other out. And I believe in abundancy, which is why I keep teaching people. There's so many deals out there. Most of these deals, again, are found through pre-foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, code violations, city liens, judgments of all kinds. You'd be shocked. Tax delinquents, tax foreclosures. You don't need 1,000 ways to find deals. You really only need about 2 or 3. It'll keep you busy. The hard part is finding the owners. So I'm going to teach you how to be the best investigator you can be. I've got over 20 ways to find people, including court records, online systems, you name it. As always, thank you for watching. For more real estate investment and legal real estate content, please subscribe to our channel. Please follow me on social media, which you can find linked in the description below. Don't forget to visit thevictormaas.com, where you can register for coaching and my future events. To listen to the podcast, please search for The Victor Maas Real Estate Show wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, linked below. Until next time, this is Victor Maas. Sign off. Take care.